Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. You are seated in a dining room so quiet that you can hear the tiny bubbles bursting inside an expensive glass of champagne. Before you rests a flawless swordfish fillet, glowing beneath warm golden lights, releasing the rich aroma of truffle and butter. To experience that single, delicate bite melting on your tongue, you might pay only a few $100s. But have you ever wondered what the true cost of that perfect moment really is? Because the real price is measured in blood, in the deafening roar of an unforgiving ocean, and in the lives of men buried beneath darkness thousands of miles away. Behind the luxury we celebrate lies a brutal truth that almost no one wants you to see. Today, I'm taking you beyond that velvet curtain of elegance and straight into the heart of the storm, where life and death are separated by nothing more than a single fishing line. Are you ready to discover the real price of luxury? Hello everyone, and welcome. If you're fascinated by the hidden realities of our world, the stories that most people never get to hear, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Your support is the lighthouse that keeps us moving forward, inspiring us to continue exploring these extraordinary stories and bringing you deeper, more authentic documentaries in the future. Now, forget the soft jazz music. The shattering of a crystal wine glass is instantly swallowed by a bolt of thunder ripping across a violent night sky. Welcome to the killing seas. Here, the romantic turquoise waters you've seen in travel brochures no longer exist. All that remains is a vast expanse of cold gray water, consumed by monstrous waves and relentless fury. At the edge of the world, there is no room for tears or weakness. As the storm screams across the open ocean, a massive industrial long-line fishing vessel, more than 50 meters long, struggles to split apart towering black waves as high as buildings. Freezing seawater explodes into clouds of white spray, striking the faces of the men clinging desperately to the slippery deck like thousands of icy needles. I've looked into the eyes of these hunters of the deep. Beneath waterproof gear soaked with seawater, heavy with salt and frost, they no longer move like ordinary men. They move like machines programmed for one purpose alone: survival against nature itself. The deck tilts nearly 30 degrees beneath their feet, yet no one complains, no one smiles, no one jokes. Amid the deafening growl of diesel engines battling the sea, they communicate almost entirely by instinct, through brief nods and weathered eyes sharpened by years of hardship. They are about to begin one of humanity's oldest and bloodiest rituals: setting the long line. Watching the enormous synthetic mainline disappear into the black water sends a chill through my body. This isn't simply fishing equipment. It is a lifeline stretching for hundreds of kilometers, carrying thousands of razor-sharp hooks baited with glowing lures designed to kill, slowly sinking into the endless darkness below. Deploying this ribbon of death isn't manual labor. It's a brutal contest between human intelligence and the unpredictable power of the ocean. The true nerve center of the vessel is the wheelhouse, where the captain studies ocean currents, latitude, water temperature, and invisible layers of the marine ecosystem with absolute precision, calculating exactly where to cast his steel hooks into the hunting grounds of the deep's greatest predators. Then the final hook disappears beneath the surface. The ocean continues to roar. The massive steel vessel is now nothing more than a lone leaf drifting through the fury of an angry sea. The trap has been set. The men retreat into silence, every muscle tense. What surrounds them now is more than darkness. It is anticipation. An unbearable silence as they wait for the supreme predators lurking beneath the abyss to discover the deadly bait hanging in their world. But the waiting that follows in that haunting midnight silence is never a moment of rest. It is a slow, merciless punishment that strips away the last fragments of a hunter's sanity. As the vessel drifts aimlessly across the restless sea, I lean against the rail and stare into the bottomless black abyss beneath my feet, wondering what is unfolding hundreds of meters below the raging waves. Unlike the violence and chaos on the surface, the deep ocean exists in an eerie stillness, a forgotten realm where sunlight has been permanently denied. The temperature hovers just above freezing. The crushing pressure is powerful enough to flatten an armored vehicle. Everything is swallowed by an endless darkness as thick as ink. In that unforgiving kingdom, every rule of survival known on land becomes meaningless. The strongest creature is not the largest. It is the one that has mastered darkness and cold through millions of years of relentless evolution. Among the rulers of this silent abyss, the swordfish stands alone, the ocean's proudest and most solitary gladiator. It hunts alone. It trusts no school, no companion. Far beneath hundreds of meters of seawater, its unusually large eyes, kept warm by a remarkable network of specialized blood vessels, allow it to pierce the darkness and detect even the slightest movement. Tonight, one such giant glides silently through the blackness. More than 3 meters long, it is a masterpiece of biological engineering. Its razor-sharp bill slices through the water as it accelerates at breathtaking speed, capable of bursts approaching 100 kilometers per hour. Driven by an instinct refined over countless generations, the predator rises from the depths, following warmer currents where squid and mackerel gather beneath the cover of night. Then, suspended where cold ocean currents collide, it notices something impossible. A faint, artificial glow, a tiny luminous float. Beneath it hangs what appears to be an irresistible squid. A perfect meal. What the predator cannot know is that, thousands of meters away, human minds have already predicted its path. They have studied the currents, measured the salinity, calculated the temperature, estimated the depth. Every variable has been considered to suspend this deadly trap precisely where the giant is most likely to hunt. Without the slightest hesitation, the predator surges forward. Its sword flashes through the water in a lightning-fast strike, stunning what it believes is vulnerable prey before it opens its jaws and engulfs the glowing bait with explosive force. Deep beneath the ocean, a dull metallic click echoes through the darkness. No human will ever hear it. The ultra-hardened carbon steel hook, engineered with a precisely calculated curve, drives deep into the roof of the fish's mouth, or buries itself inside its powerful gills. Pain explodes through flesh and muscle. Primitive fury instantly takes over. The giant thrashes with unimaginable violence, twisting, rolling, and charging through the darkness in a desperate attempt to tear the foreign object free. But every violent struggle only drives the hook deeper, piercing powerful muscles that evolved to conquer the open ocean. Dark blood pours into the sea. Within seconds, it disappears into the surrounding water, leaving behind an invisible trail that announces suffering to every predator lurking nearby. Above the surface, hours crawl by. The fishermen remain on deck, smoking rain-soaked cigarettes in complete silence, while freezing waves crash relentlessly against their faces. They no longer rely on sight to read the darkness. They rely on instinct. An instinct forged through years of blood, exhaustion, and survival. Then, without warning, the thumb-thick mainline suspended beside the vessel shudders violently. A piercing scream erupts as the line grinds against the steel hull. The sound cuts through the night like a funeral hymn. The scythe of death has fallen. The entire deck comes alive. Bloodshot eyes, dulled by exhaustion only moments before, ignite with sudden intensity. Now, the real battle begins. The moment the marker buoy suddenly disappears beneath the surface, carving a trail of white foam across the endless darkness, the true battle begins. The hydraulic hauler erupts with a harsh metallic roar, grinding and straining like a steel beast, dragging hundreds of kilometers of long line back from the abyss. Chains slam against metal. The storm howls overhead. Together, they create a deafening symphony that seems to squeeze the air from every man's lungs. The silence is gone. Now the deck is thick with the smell of diesel fuel, the metallic stench of fresh fish blood and entrails, and the sharp salt of sweat pouring from bodies stretched to their limits. Hauling the line is not a routine operation. It is a deadly dance in which a single mistake can cost a life. Driven by the immense force of ocean currents and the giant creatures fighting at the other end, the main line snaps tight, vibrating violently through the air like an invisible razor. I've seen what happens when that force suddenly overwhelms the gear. A main line parts without warning. The heavy line whips across the deck with the speed of a rifle bullet, destroying everything in its path. Anyone standing in the wrong place is lucky to lose only a hand or a leg. Others are cut down in an instant. That is why the men working beside the hydraulic hauler are the bravest, or perhaps the most reckless, aboard the vessel. They throw themselves into the chaos with terrifying precision. Rubber-gloved hands seize branch lines one after another. Hooks are unclipped almost faster than the eye can follow. Every movement has been repeated thousands of times. Every second matters. Then, the moment finally arrives. From beneath the exploding white foam, a brilliant silver phantom bursts toward the surface. A giant swordfish, the proud gladiator of the open ocean, now performing the final dance of its life. The enormous fish launches clear of the water, twisting its gleaming body through the air as its sword, more than a meter long, slashes wildly in every direction, determined to destroy anything that dares stand before it. Its strength is almost unimaginable. Even after hours of exhausting struggle in the depths, the animal still possesses enough power to punch through the fiberglass hull of a boat with a single well-placed strike. Seawater erupts into the air. Bright crimson blood spills from the corner of its mouth. Beauty and brutality become impossible to separate. The captain's command cuts through the storm. 3 of the vessel's most experienced fishermen rush to the rail, gripping heavy stainless steel gaff hooks. They wait, not for courage, for timing. Only when the waves force the swordfish against the hull do they strike. The sharpened hooks drive deep into the giant's body. Thunk. The sound of steel penetrating flesh is sickening. The swordfish convulses. Its massive crescent-shaped tail delivers one final explosive blow that shudders through the entire vessel. But the battle is already over. There is nowhere left to escape. With muscles burning beneath rain-soaked foul-weather gear, the crew heaves together, hauling the animal, weighing hundreds of kilograms, onto the slippery steel deck. It crashes down with a thunderous impact. Under the harsh glare of the floodlights, the brilliant silver sheen that once shimmered across its body begins to fade. Those enormous eyes that had evolved to see through the eternal darkness of the deep, grow distant and unfocused. They reflect only the faces of the men who have claimed its life. The king's final dance is over. All that remains are labored breaths, and the weakening thud of its tail striking steel as a pool of scarlet blood slowly spreads beneath it. Standing there, watching one of the ocean's greatest wonders surrender to death, I feel no triumph, no satisfaction, only a crushing heaviness settling in my chest. In that blood-soaked moment, humanity's invisible burden, our endless hunger to conquer nature, has never felt more real. Though the magnificent creature has fallen, the brutality of the ocean continues to unfold across the cold steel deck, stained dark red by the cost of both life and human ambition. The instant the swordfish draws its final breath into the freezing air, the dignity of an ocean gladiator disappears. In its place comes the cold efficiency of an industrial production line. There is no moment of silence, no expression of sympathy. The crew, each gripping a gleaming fillet knife, transforms into a team of practiced processors. With only a few swift, precise cuts, the sword that once ruled the open sea is sawn off and tossed carelessly into a corner. The head and internal organs are discarded overboard, where sharks, already following the scent of blood trailing behind the vessel, wait beneath the waves. The giant body, once master of the abyss, is drained, washed clean, and lowered into a blast freezer operating at nearly -60 degrees Celsius. There, it is no longer a living creature. It becomes inventory, a commodity, a collection of premium cuts assigned a market price worth thousands of dollars. Yet while the death of a swordfish may generate wealth, another far harsher reality unfolds on this deck. One the commercial fishing industry would rather never record. These are the meaningless deaths, the silent victims of a fishing method whose reach extends far beyond its intended catch. A single long line, stretching for hundreds of kilometers, carries thousands upon thousands of hooks. Those hooks cannot distinguish between a valuable commercial swordfish and a protected species fighting for survival. As the hydraulic hauler continues dragging line after line from the depths, the sea begins returning its unintended casualties, one by one. The waves reveal a hidden tragedy beneath their blue surface. I stood frozen when a giant leatherback sea turtle emerged beside the vessel. An ancient survivor whose ancestors swam Earth's oceans while dinosaurs still walked the continents. The hook had buried itself deep inside its throat after the turtle mistook the glowing bait for a drifting jellyfish. Unlike the swordfish, it does not thrash in violent fury. Instead, it struggles quietly. Its enormous flippers beat weakly against empty air. Blood trickles from its mouth. Its exhausted movements grow slower with every passing second. The crew removes what they can, breaks the embedded hook, and returns the animal to the sea. For severely hooked turtles, survival is often uncertain. On a commercial fishing vessel, every minute spent attempting a rescue can mean lost time, lost catch, and lost income. And the turtle is far from the only unintended victim. Blue sharks surface bloated and exhausted after prolonged struggles on the line. Seabirds dive for bait floating near the surface, become entangled on hooks, and are dragged beneath the waves. Countless animals never meant to be caught become casualties of a system designed to maximize efficiency rather than selectivity. Their blood joins the streams, washing across the steel deck before flowing back into the ocean. Standing inside what feels like a slaughterhouse at sea, the hydraulic hauler never stops turning. Its rhythm is steady, mechanical, emotionless. Every hook lifted from the depths represents another gamble with life itself. The fishermen are not monsters. Most are simply men trying to earn enough to support their families in one of the world's most dangerous professions. Yet they have become participants in a system driven by demand far beyond the horizon, by distant markets where consumers rarely witness what happens before a meal reaches the table. I look toward the frozen holds packed with carefully preserved fish. Then I turn back toward the endless sea swallowing the discarded remains. And in that moment, one realization becomes impossible to ignore. Beneath humanity's polished image of progress lies an environmental cost almost too vast to comprehend. The ocean is not silent. It is bleeding quietly, hour after hour, day after day, to satisfy a luxury whose true price most diners will never smell, never see, and never imagine. When the freezer hold is finally packed with the ocean's frozen treasures, the vessel turns toward land, leaving behind a sea scarred by everything it has taken. The diesel engines roar once more, churning through the waves. But this time, the race is no longer against the storm. It is against time itself. The catch must reach port before the morning auction begins. Standing on the deck, now washed clean of every trace of the night's slaughter, I watch the crew collapse wherever they can find a place to sit. Their faces are hollow. Their skin is weathered by salt and wind. Their eyes are clouded by exhaustion after days without proper sleep. Fresh cuts on their hands are wrapped hastily with strips of old cloth. In silence, they stare toward the distant shoreline, where the glowing lights of civilization shimmer on the horizon. They have survived another voyage into one of the most dangerous workplaces on Earth. But the ocean has claimed something from each of them. Not only their strength, but a small part of their peace. The moment the vessel reaches port, nature's brutality is replaced by the cold precision of commerce. Under the harsh fluorescent lights of the fish market, frozen swordfish are lifted from the hold like enormous blocks of stone. No longer the fearless warriors of the deep, they lie motionless across the concrete floor, while buyers surround them with notebooks, calculators, and rapid-fire bids. Prices climb into the thousands of dollars. Deals are completed within minutes. No one speaks of the storms. No one remembers the severed fingers. No one asks about the sea turtles that never made it back to the surface. Everything is reduced to numbers, to profit, to premium labels destined for the world's finest restaurants. And so, the circle is complete. Open your eyes. We have returned to the quiet dining room where this story began. Before you sits that immaculate swordfish fillet once again, glowing beneath warm golden light. A celebrated chef approaches your table with a smile, explaining the precision of sous vide cooking, the perfectly seared crust, and the delicate truffle sauce that accompanies the dish. You hear none of the hydraulic winches screaming against steel. You smell none of the blood. You witness none of the suffering. Every trace of violence has been carefully removed, polished away, and elegantly plated, leaving behind only luxury. But I, having stood where the ocean meets the edge of survival, can never forget. Every time I lift a piece of swordfish to my lips, I taste more than delicate flesh. I taste salt from exhausted workers. I taste blood carried by the tide. And somewhere beneath it all, I hear the ocean crying beneath the weight of everything we continue to take from it. The true price of luxury has never been measured in money alone. It is paid by fishermen who risk their lives every time they sail beyond the horizon. It is paid by fragile marine ecosystems pushed closer to collapse. And it is paid by millions of creatures that will never have a voice of their own. Before we end, one important truth deserves to be remembered. Commercial fisheries around the world are not all the same. Many responsible fisheries have adopted measures such as circle hooks, turtle release equipment, seasonal closures, onboard observers, and stricter regulations to reduce bycatch and protect vulnerable species. Conservation scientists, fishing communities, governments, and consumers all have a role to play in making seafood more sustainable. The future of the ocean is not determined by one voyage alone. It is shaped by the choices we make every day. This is where our journey ends. I hope that the next time you sit before an elegant seafood dinner, you'll pause for just a single moment. Look beyond the flawless presentation. Remember the men who battled towering waves to earn a living. Remember the magnificent creatures that once ruled the deep. And remember this: every luxury humanity enjoys is built upon costs that are often invisible. Some are measured in labor, some in sacrifice, and some are paid by the living world itself. Thank you for watching. If this documentary gave you a new perspective on the hidden realities behind our oceans, please subscribe to the channel and join us as we continue uncovering the stories the world too often leaves untold. Until next time, take care.